Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So what I like about the Ultimates universe is the twist that they take on the familiar characters, but when they flip that and take you in a different direction. Now, although I don't agree with every little change that they made in comparison to the 616, I can't deny that it was refreshing to pick up something different. Like, it had its familiarities, but at the same time, when you make it different, you have the element of surprise once again. Because it's nothing more underwhelming than experience a story that you've already been told. And it's like you already know what's going to happen beat by beat. And when I say that, I can't help but think of Spider-Man Homecoming. I saw the film this past weekend, and don't take me wrong, it was good, but I feel like it was no more than just good because 80% of the bang of it I seen in the trailer already. So the thing is, when you already know a story to a certain extent, you already know who the character is, it should be used to rejuvenate the stories that we already know and love. Like Captain America, for example, in the Ultimates universe, his origin is a lot like the 616, but he's not the first super soldier. And I have a link pop up for anybody who's new to the channel to check that out. But I bring up Cap for the main reason that they use this as an opportunity to introduce a new origin to the Hulk as well. But also, with that being done, this time around with the Hulk, writers have more liberty to take and be more graphic if they want to. They have the Hulk rip Wolverine in half at the liberty of saying all this is happening in a separate universe. So when we started to see Banner involved with the Super Soldier program, it just made more sense that the Hulk would come from something like that in the modern day versus revisiting the Gamma Bomb in the 21st century. And so with Banner working for S.H.I.E.L.D., and you know S.H.I.E.L.D.'s carrying out their other missions on their own already, one of which being collecting the Infinity Stones, it brings the two close together with the opportunity of making a new story out of it. So now in the Ultimates universe, Sue Storm plays a pretty big part, because she's the main one responsible for collecting the majority of the stones together with the help of Thor, who had to defeat him and Hela's son just to get the Mind Stone. And their son Modi had used the Mind Stone to control Thor, and he was pulling strings behind the scene that caused the whole United States to separate. So when it collapsed on itself, he would build a new Asgard there and take over. And shortly before Thor killed Modi, he was also working with Hydra to get it done as well. And Thor really didn't want to kill Modi, he just believed that that was the only way that he could be stopped. And when Sue reached out to him for help to gather the stones, he really didn't want to go. At the time, he was still mourning his son, but because of the gravity of the situation, he helped her out anyway. And you're probably wondering why at this point you're not seeing Reed Richards working with Sue Storm to do this. And long story short, it's just because he's evil. And he's the character that we know now in All New, All Different Marvel as the Maker. But his origins extend all the way back to the 1610 universe as Reed Richards, part of the Fantastic Four. But we'll talk more about him when we get to discussing Cataclysm and the Incursion event. And that'll all be on the James Hudson playlist that I already got started. Because even though that's from James Hudson's point of view, I'm also using that playlist as a tool to show you guys some more about some of the characters that survived from the 1610 on through the Incursion, through Secret Wars, and made it into All New, All Different Marvel. But either way, that's the deal with Reed Richards, and we're going to see some more of him in a little bit. So now Susan's collecting the stones. She tries to use information that she has from the stones she has collected so far to pick up a location for the ones that are missing. And the reason why she chose Thor to help her out is not only because his knowledge of other realms and previous experience with the Mind Gem, is also because he's a hunter and gatherer. Because if you think about it, it only makes sense. Like, you can gather all the most brilliant minds together in one room, but you're also going to need experience and somebody who's not afraid to get hands on. But at the same time, you know Thor's not perfect, so every now and then he's going to be Thor. And he's going to reach and grab something when he's not supposed to. And when he grabbed one of the gauntlets, he mentioned that his son told him that the blue one contained the spirit of an ancient god. And immediately Thor and Sue were transported over to a secret Hydra base that Modi was working with before Thor took him down. But like in no time at all, man, Thor shut this place all the way down. Then not too long after that, when Monica Chang from S.H.I.E.L.D. is debriefing Thor about what happened, his explanation is hilarious. He's like, I was bored, then we appeared here. I didn't like the way they were yelling at Susan, so I started hitting things. And then, I was no longer bored. But this trip paid off because Susan found a device that was holding one of the Infinity Gems before, bringing them a little bit closer to finding the remaining gems that were still out there. So from right there, I want to talk about a character named Kang. Yes, there are a lot of people like woven into this story. It's crazy. And it also weaves into like all the other Ultimate stories that we covered so far too. Alright, so Kang in our main continuity over in the 616 is Nathaniel Richards, which is a 30th century descendant of Reed Richards, making his home Earth in an alternate future, Earth 6311. Because once the timeline is altered, your Earth gets a whole new designation number. Kind of like Age of Apocalypse getting the designation Earth 295. So now in the Ultimates universe where all of this is happening at, Kang's a little different. Instead of being Nathaniel Richards from the 30th century, Kang is actually the future version of Sue Storm. And so she traveled back in time and arrived 1 week after the Ultimatum event in hopes of saving her universe from the destruction that's to come in the near future. So her plan is to go back in time, steal the Infinity Gauntlets, and prevent this from ever happening. So throughout this series, Sue Storm explains what these Infinity Gems are and how they keep appearing in the Ultimates universe. And I feel like her best explanation was given to Reed Richards, or the Maker if you will. And because she's a biologist, she made the comparison to these stones to white blood cells. So as the universe is facing destruction, it will produce these quote-unquote white blood cells as a remedy to repair itself. But while present day Sue Storm is here catching up the Ultimates to what she knows about the Infinity Gems, they're alerted that the Hulk has escaped his cell, and Cap tells Sue to make a force field real quick, and that force field saved them from getting blown to pieces like seconds. Like a second later, it would have been too late. But not a lot of people knew Banner was locked up in here, because if you guys remember in the previous video where Hulk mixed the serums and turned from green to gray, it was after that whole episode where he spazzed out and the Ultimates had to fight against him, finally get him to calm down, and he's been locked up ever since. But like I said, only a handful of people knew that he was locked up in there. And this is what gave Kang the advantage when she traveled back in time and freed Bruce Banner. So she told him what he needed to do, disconnected the sedative that's keeping him calm, and gave him a little nudge of motivation to Hulk out. But I just gotta say this right here, like, whose idea was it to lock up the Hulk in the same building with the Infinity Gauntlets? Like, that was mad dumb. But let me say this here before I forget, because I know a lot of you are wondering, why are there 2 Infinity Gauntlets? That would be because in the Ultimates universe, there are 8 Infinity Stones. And I'll tell you what the other 2 are in a little bit, but right now we gotta deal with this Hulk. And now that he's free and he has both gauntlets and 5 out of 8 stones, the first person he goes for with the whole entire Ultimates team in his face is Thor. And when he lashes out on Thor, it sounds kind of personal, because he's talking about how he used to look up to Thor, how he wanted to be like Thor. And it almost sounds like a bit of Banner coming out, because when Banner took that second version of the Super Soldier Serum that turned him from green to gray, he was in a place of the outside looking in, wanting to get back into action, so it kind of sounded like that a little bit to me. But yeah, you can tell he was really in his feelings, because when he hit Thor, he knocked him into like another zip code. But like with everything they're hitting Hulk with, he keeps coming back, because like they'll like melt his face away. But when they do that, he'll just use the gauntlets and grow another face like right after that. It's crazy. So now back to these extra stones. So now with everything going on, we really don't get like a specific breakdown of each and every single stone out of all 8. And so now in earlier issues of Ultimates that we looked at, around the time that they were facing off with the Defenders, Tony Stark mentioned that he had a tumor developing in his brain. Now within some of the issues we didn't cover, this tumor developed with personality. And it took on the appearance of a younger Tony Stark, and him and the tumor would have conversations back and forth. Yeah, I know it's crazy. But he named that alter consciousness Anthony. And Anthony's tied into all his tech just like Tony, and he would help Tony out to build stuff. And actually, because he was a second conscious, he had a separate giant Iron Man suit built for his own functionality outside of Tony. Also so he can come in as a reinforcement. But having that extra hand really came in handy, because when Anthony comes in here, he shoots Hulk with his beam that pretty much turns him into oatmeal. And as he's breaking down like an Alka-Seltzer tablet, Cap goes for the opportunity to take the gloves out of his possession. But that does little to no good, because like a bolt of lightning, Hulk just teleports over to right behind him with the gloves still on his hand. But when he re-solidifies back into his humanoid form, he only has one glove on his hand, and like the other one's still laying there. And it almost seems like Hulk barely notices, because he's not really using the gauntlets but to put himself back together. Up until this point where he makes multiple copies of himself, but that's it. But this is where we also find out that Reed Richards has been broken out as well. So Reed was locked up in a fortress called the Cube, where he was freed 20 minutes earlier by Quicksilver. And this was all part of Kang's plan, because when Kang came back in time, she knew that she needed Reed Richards, she knew that she needed Hulk to get the gauntlets, she knew she needed Quicksilver to pick up gems and run them back to Reed Richards, and she also knew she needed Johnny Storm, who got captured in the Ultimate X-Men story we were reading not too long ago. So if you guys remember in our James Hudson joining the X-Men video, where Quicksilver got into a brawl with his half-brother James Hudson, their mother Magnus shot him up just to break up the fight and then send Quicksilver over to a secret location to get healed up. So while he was in this location, Kang, who had been at this time point, recruited Quicksilver from that hospital bed to disassemble the Ultimates and retrieve the Infinity Gauntlets. But fast forwarding back to Ultimates Disassembled, there's one little problem. Now Quicksilver admits that he's no genius, but with the speed that he has, he's able to do math at a quick rate and catch up with things. And what he notices when he sees Kang's calculations is that she plans to erase the mutant population once she gets all the stones in Reed's possession. And now at this point it's too late, because he had already taken Tony, who had the last Infinity Stone forming in his head, back to the Maker. Because shortly after that battle with the Hulk at the Triskelion, Tony's slipping in and out of consciousness, and he's trying to get back in touch with Anthony, but he's losing him. But like I said, once he already delivered Tony to the Maker, it was a wrap, because as soon as he got there, the Maker cut Tony open and surgically removed the Infinity Stone from his brain. And Tony was alive through the whole process, but after Reed Richards got the stone out, he just walked away and cut off the respirator. And when Kang found out, she knew that Reed Richards could retrieve the stone and still have Tony survive the procedure. But he did save an artificial copy of Tony's brainwaves that later made its way back to an Iron Man suit that came back to the body and resuscitated Tony's body. And so I want to say it's about 6 minutes that the brain could go without oxygen before you start getting brain damage. But I don't think they made it back in 6 minutes, man. I think it was more than 6 minutes. But anyway, back to Quicksilver. So Kang straight took him out. She no longer saw a use for him, and in her mind, it was for the greater good. And also her reason for wanting to get rid of mutants altogether is because this whole Cataclysm event, she sees it as their fault. With Wolverine traveling through time and allowing Galactus to walk into the 1610 universe, she just figures if she erases mutants altogether, then problem solved. So right after that, present day, Sue Storm pulls Johnny, who they were using to grab one of the stones as well too, to see if he can help fight, because at this point they need all the help they can get. Because time is running out, and Maker and Kang are fighting over the gems to see who can get them. So then Johnny Storm knocks the stones away from Reed and Kang, so the last Iron Man suit with a copy of Tony's consciousness can collect the rest of the gems. But as he collects the gems, each one of them shatters, and Kang's like it's too late. And right after Kang says it's too late, she lets Susan know that her destiny lies with Reed, telling her if she stays with Ben Grimm that she's doomed. And right after that, Kang goes back in time again, but this time further back in time. And now if I may drop a theory right here, with Kang going back in time one more time, like if they ever revisit that in all new, all different Marvel, she can cause a ripple in time that would erase characters that survived through the Incursion and through Secret Wars. But hopefully we don't see that. Hopefully, if anything, she just went to the negative zone and escaped the Incursion altogether. But we do see that the current day Sue Storm takes her own advice and she sticks around with Reed Richards. But I'm gonna end it here for this one, guys. So now, so far, we got 2 videos that are ending off where Cataclysm begins. Or really this video and then a whole nother playlist. And once we do a video on Cataclysm, everything will make sense tying into my Black Panther video, which uses the Infinity Gauntlet to beat Doom and end Secret Wars. But I like doing it this way so you can see the perspective of different characters. So when they're all met with the same epic event, you have an idea who was where and possibly what loopholes are left behind as well. Because I really feel like Kang is a 1610 loophole that was left behind, intentionally. But that's it for this one, guys. Sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Smash that like button. We'll do it again next time. Alright, later.